Hello everyone. Welcome to Synapse, your ultimate learning companion. Today, we are diving deep into the fascinating world of the cell, specifically exploring a critical phenomenon known as plasmolysis. Have you ever wondered why plants wilt when watered with salty water? We'll uncover the science behind it. We'll start with the basics, then move through medium, hard, and finally, competitive level insights. Get ready for an exciting journey. Let's kick things off with the easy level. We'll understand what plasmolysis is in simple terms, using everyday examples. Imagine a plant cell, happily full of water. Now, picture it in a very salty environment. Plasmolysis is simply when this plant cell loses so much water that its inner contents, like the cell membrane, pull away from its strong outer wall. Think of a shrunken balloon inside a sturdy box. The balloon shrinks, pulling away from the box's sides. This happens because the water inside the cell wants to move to the saltier outside, where there's less water and more dissolved stuff. This process is triggered by what we call a hypertonic solution. Hyper means more, so a hypertonic solution has a higher concentration of dissolved substances outside the cell than inside. Water, following its natural tendency, moves from an area of high concentration inside the cell to a lower concentration outside. As water exits, the cell's central vacuole, which stores water, shrinks, causing the entire protoplast, that's the cell membrane, and everything inside it to shrink and detach from the rigid cell wall. A common example? If you put a fresh grape in concentrated salty water, it shrivels up. That's plasmolysis in action. Time for some quick checks. What is plasmolysis in simple terms? What type of solution causes plasmolysis? And describe what happens to the cell membrane during this process. Pause here and think about your answers. Now, let's elevate our understanding a bit. In the medium level, we'll delve deeper into the stages and implications of plasmolysis. At its heart, plasmolysis is all about osmosis. Remember, osmosis is the movement of water across a semi-permeable membrane. When a plant cell encounters a hypertonic solution, the water potential outside is lower than inside, causing water to rush out. This outward flow of water leads to a series of stages. First, incipient plasmolysis, where the cell just begins to lose water, and the membrane barely starts to pull away. Then, evident plasmolysis, where significant water loss causes the protoplast to shrink noticeably. Finally, severe plasmolysis, where the protoplast is highly contracted and the cell is at risk of dying. It's important to note the difference between plant and animal cells here. Plant cells have a rigid cell wall, which means that even when the membrane shrinks during plasmolysis, the overall shape of the cell is maintained by the wall. Animal cells, however, lack this wall. In a hypertonic solution, they don't undergo plasmolysis but instead shrivel up completely, a process called crenation, as their membrane shrinks without any external support. This fundamental structural difference leads to distinct responses. Plasmolysis isn't just a lab phenomenon, it has real-world applications. Think about how food is preserved. Salting fish or adding sugar to jams works by creating a hypertonic environment. This draws water out of any bacteria or fungi, causing their cells to undergo plasmolysis and preventing spoilage. It's also used in agriculture for weed control, where strong salt solutions can cause weeds to plasmolyze and die. Understanding this process helps us keep food safe and manage plant growth effectively. Ready for some more questions? Explain the role of osmosis in causing plasmolysis. Differentiate between incipient and evident plasmolysis. Why do animal cells undergo crenation instead of plasmolysis? Give two practical applications of plasmolysis. Finally, what happens to the turgor pressure of a plant cell undergoing plasmolysis? Take your time to answer these. Alright, let's step up to the hard level. Here, we'll connect plasmolysis to more advanced concepts like water potential and explore its broader biological significance. The driving force behind water movement, including during plasmolysis, is water potential. Imagine it as the energy of water. Water always moves from an area of higher water potential to one of lower water potential. In a hypertonic solution, the external environment has a significantly lower, or more negative, water potential compared to the inside of the plant cell. This difference creates a powerful gradient that pulls water out of the cell, initiating and sustaining plasmolysis. As water leaves, the cell's internal pressure, known as turgor pressure, dramatically drops. In a fully plasmolyzed cell, turgor pressure can even become zero or negative, leading to the cell's flaccid state. Interestingly, plasmolysis isn't always a one-way street. In its early stages, it can be reversed through a process called deplasmolysis. If a plasmolyzed cell is quickly moved from a hypertonic solution to a hypotonic one, meaning a solution with a higher water potential, water will rush back into the cell via osmosis. This re-entry of water causes the protoplast to swell, push against the cell wall, and restore its turgor pressure, bringing the cell back to its normal, turgid state. This reversibility is crucial for cell survival in fluctuating environments. Plasmolysis has significant ecological and physiological implications. For instance, some plants can tolerate moderate plasmolysis, which helps them survive periods of drought by conserving water. However, severe plasmolysis can make plant cells more vulnerable to pathogen attacks, as the loss of turgor pressure compromises the cell's structural integrity. Furthermore, understanding water potential dynamics is key to processes like stomatal movement, where changes in guard cell turgor regulate gas exchange and transpiration, highlighting the intricate balance of water in plant life. It's question time for the hard level. Define water potential and explain how it drives plasmolysis. Describe the change in turgor pressure during plasmolysis. What is deplasmolysis and when does it occur? How does plasmolysis relate to drought resistance? Explain the difference between plasmolysis and wilting. Why is a rigid cell wall important for observing plasmolysis distinctly? And finally, if a cell shows no change in volume in a solution, what type of solution is it? Think critically about these. Now, for the ultimate challenge. Welcome to the hardest level, where we'll explore plasmolysis with competitive depth, delving into quantitative aspects, advanced mechanisms, and real-world engineering insights. To truly grasp plasmolysis, we need to understand the water potential equation. Psi equals psi s plus psi p. Psi s, or solute potential, is always negative or zero, becoming more negative with increasing solute concentration. Psi p, or pressure potential, represents turgor pressure. Plasmolysis occurs when the external solution's water potential is more negative than the cell's, causing water to leave. This shrinking of the protoplast can stress the cell membrane, potentially damaging it or disrupting plasmodesmata, the tiny channels connecting plant cells. Such damage can lead to irreversible plasmolysis and cell death, emphasizing the delicate balance required for cell survival. Water doesn't just passively seep through membranes, its movement is significantly facilitated by aquaporins, specialized protein channels. The number and activity of these aquaporins directly influence how quickly water moves in or out of a cell, thus affecting the speed and extent of plasmolysis. Think of them as controllable gates for water. In biotechnology, plasmolysis is a critical step for isolating protoplasts, plant cells stripped of their walls for genetic engineering. By shrinking the protoplast, it becomes easier to remove the cell wall without harming the delicate cell membrane. This controlled plasmolysis is a precise engineering technique at the cellular level. In medicine, understanding tonicity is paramount. Intravenous fluids, for example, must be isotonic to our blood cells. If they were hypertonic, our red blood cells would undergo crenation, shriveling and becoming dysfunctional. In ecology, we see remarkable adaptations. Halophytes, plants living in salty environments, have evolved to cope with constant hypertonic stress. They accumulate compatible solutes like proline to maintain a lower internal water potential, preventing excessive water loss and ensuring survival. These natural osmoregulators demonstrate complex biological strategies to manage water balance, highlighting the diverse ways life adapts to extreme conditions to avoid plasmolysis. While plasmolysis is often reversible, prolonged or severe exposure to hypertonic conditions can lead to irreversible damage and cell death. This happens when the protoplast detaches for too long, the cell membrane is irreparably damaged, or metabolic processes cease due to extreme dehydration. The ability to control plasmolysis has far-reaching implications, from preserving food and developing drought-resistant crops to ensuring the safety of medical treatments. It's a fundamental concept that bridges basic cell biology with advanced applications, impacting everything from our dinner tables to the future of biotechnology and medicine. Let's tackle the first 5 hardest questions. Using the water potential equation, explain how both solute and pressure potential contribute to plasmolysis. Discuss the mechanical stresses on the cell membrane and plasmodesmata. How do aquaporins influence plasmolysis? Describe how plasmolysis is used in protoplast isolation. And finally, explain why 4 fluids must be isotonic. Think deeply about these complex interactions. Here are the remaining 5 hardest questions. Compare osmoregulatory strategies of mesophytes and halophytes. Under what conditions does plasmolysis become irreversible? Design an experiment to measure the rate of plasmolysis. Propose another application of plasmolysis in agriculture or industry. And lastly, discuss the evolutionary advantages and disadvantages of a rigid cell wall in the context of plasmolysis. These questions require comprehensive understanding. And that brings us to the end of our in-depth exploration of plasmolysis. We've journeyed from basic definitions to competitive insights, uncovering the incredible science behind why cells shrink in hypertonic solutions. We hope this session has clarified all your doubts and deepened your understanding. For more such engaging and comprehensive educational content, don't forget to visit synapse.omaps.in. And if you found this video helpful, please like, share, and subscribe to our channel for more amazing learning experiences. Keep exploring, keep learning, and stay curious.